Alright guys, here's the gear. Timeless, open comb, stainless steel, 68 gap. Semogue Owners Club, boar brush with a Taj handle. Nacet, and I did look at my past shave of the day pics that I take before each shave, use that as my thumbnail on the videos, that sort of thing. And I did have a double where I had just one dot, and so I added the dot back in. So this now should match the description of the videos, which is going to be the accurate tally. And so we're looking at 464. It should be the shave for today on the Nacet. We're going to be using Midnight Stag for all the scents today. Just like yesterday, I did find my aftershave in the Midnight Stag, which is kind of miraculous because I just moved to another room, another place, rental, and I've still got a bunch of shaving stuff I haven't gone through yet. And so the fact that I lucked into the one that happened to have the Midnight Stag in it was fortuitous and a blessing. And we also have that for the cologne. All right, I've got a bunch of stuff to do today, and I thought, you know what, let's just kind of start everything up, not worrying about all that, and take a little bit of a break and do the shave. A little respite before the tumultuous day. A lot of times when I have a month like this where, well, I guess it's really just August, where I'm shaving with the same stuff, I like to have goals or things that I'm trying. And I'm showing you the blade here. Got the N up here, the one down here, and the little Sharpie dot over there. I like to have I like to use that for experimentation, because when you are shaving and you're either trying different things in terms of technique, it's good to do that when your gear remains the same, because you eliminate variables. And that's what I also recommend when you're a starting shaver. I branched out. I kept buying more razors instead of making my technique what it should be. And so my technique developed, but it did it more slowly. It is so funny how when you're just starting out, you just don't get a close shave. And it's all because of your technique. You just haven't learned the right way to hold the razor, the right pressure to have, the right angles to come at everything. It's just funny. And you just keep going at it, and you figure it out, and then magically your shaves improve. And a lot of people wait. A lot of people don't wait, and they buy more stuff to try to fix the problem. So today's goal is to do one of my normal type shaves. Yesterday was a quickie, the slurry lather that I discovered this month. But today is going to be one of my usual techniques, where I take my time and I enjoy it more. That's that sort of thing. Let me get my face wet. All right, so loading. Shake a lot of the water out. And then, how about we try 2 seconds of loading? Okay, let's count swirls, just like we did with MDC. Let's try 15 swirls. Let's try 10 swirls. I think I got down to 10 swirls with the MDC a couple years ago when I did that. Let's just try, because this has been used all this month. And so let's try 10 swirls, because counting that short number of seconds is kind of tough. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. I have no idea if it's going to be enough. It'll be funny. It was, we did have a lightly wet brush, as is kind of usual for me, and so we have left behind a little bit of water in the soap. Let's just see what 10 swirls does. I mean, you can see a little bit of soap on the brush. Okay, as I start to work it up, it starts to show up. I still don't know if it'll be enough. We'll just see. A lot of times I can tell when after I stir up this first little bit before I start adding water, I'll be able to look at the quantity and tell if I need to add a little bit more. That's just hilarious that you would get. I bet, let's try this. I bet it might be enough. That's really funny. So my focus today is going to be on the brush. When I first started, the brush had 60 something uses on it. I think now it has mid 80s. I remember it feeling a little kind of ropey, where I could tell that it was getting softer because the more the tips are splitting, but it still had a good ways to go. Wiry might be a good way to say it, but as long as you don't have a context in there of stiff tips, because you don't have that. Take a look at that. 10 swirls in the soap. We're getting toward the end of August. I need to get back in the Austere August threads on the sub, the wet shaving sub, and look at how guys are doing with their boar challenge. The ones that decided to use a boar brush all month from scratch, from the not having the boar broken in at all. And so they're all breaking in their boar brushes from different brands at the same time. It's called Raw Hoggin, is what they decided to name that particular challenge. Some of the brushes are going to take a while to break in. And so I don't think a month is going to make too much difference. I think it'll usually take a brush that might be killing lathers and at least make it to where it's not doing that. But it might be a while before some of them are. A couple of the brands just take a longer time to break in. All right. A little bit of more water on my face. And then let's get this lather going. I think I probably need to add more water, but we'll just go with it. Can always add a little bit more into the bowl like that, and take a couple of sprinkles onto the brush like that. Brush was able to sit for 10 minutes or so. It's definitely being different. It's changing. It's feeling more uniform. I think more of the tips are splitting, and so the softness is a little bit more uniform. There are definitely some tips in there that are kind of solid looking, almost as if the bristle either was on a part of the boar where it never tapered, or maybe it's upside down and the tapered end is toward the center of the knot there. Don't know which, is going on. Whether they, maybe it's a clipped hair, that sort of thing. I think eventually even those should split. But I think this guy he's taking a while to get those split hairs, a lot of them. And so what I have done with some brushes is to cut out those rough ones, especially the ones that are flipped upside down, where you can find it's almost like a square looking tip to it, and then it almost looks like it has a follicle on it, a little slightly thick part that's maybe 2 millimeters, 1 millimeter long. The end of the boar hair looks different than the rest of it, and so I assume in other brushes that I've trimmed up that that's an upside down hair, and I just get rid of those because you've got thousands of hairs in these brushes. And so what I do is I just try to clip it as close down as I can. Sometimes I pull it off to the side of the brush and then clip it up right next, or you can dig down deep into the knot and try to do that. And I have, of the brushes I've done that on, it has made a noticeable improvement, because those are those hairs that kind of give you just a little bit of prickle, or just a little bit of kind of feel, and then all of a sudden you don't have that feeling anymore, and the softness is more perceived, and you really notice the softness, the comfort and kind of luxury of the brush jump right out at you with a little trim like that. Certain brush brands do a better job of kind of inspecting the brush bristles to make sure they're facing the right way. I think Omega is one of the worst. A lot of bristles in that one that I had to kind of trim out. Zenith is probably one of the best. There was not too many of those. Semogue is near Zenith, but not quite as good as Zenith, I think. But a lot of times, many of those Omegas are cheap brushes, and so I think you're paying for that, right? And so maybe if you want to buy an inexpensive Omega brush and you find a handle that works well for you, and you don't mind being the person who kind of works through the knot to find the upside down hairs, clip them out yourself, save yourself some money. I definitely don't have tons of lather here, but I think I'm going to have plenty for 4 passes, and that's really all I need. So that's really funny. I think with MDC I discovered that 7 swirls would work, but I preferred the having a little bit of margin that the 10 swirls gave me. I think that's in my brain. Cross grain now. Comfortable. And I haven't mentioned some of the marathon blade secrets that I use to make my blades go longer. I've documented a lot of them on my website, sugardaddyShaves.com. And you can hear my kids in the background, I'm sure. They're watching some YouTube video, probably about Minecraft or something like that. Oh, tell you what, when they were younger, before they started watching a lot of this YouTube junk, it was easy to sit down and watch some TV with them. They like some of the classics, Bugs Bunny, that sort of thing. Phineas and Ferb was just a friend of mine turned me on to that show, and that's got a little bit for adults as well as the kids, so that was really fun to watch. Of course, there's the Dora the Explorer type show that you know adults just can't watch with kids. Fortunately, my little girl didn't really want to watch Dora too much when she was growing up, but the kids did like Caillou, and that's kind of the same thing. Oh, drove me crazy. And but all those shows, at least many of them, I could still sit down and enjoy them with the kids. At least not be annoyed. Maybe I was bored, but at least I wouldn't be annoyed. But these YouTube videos where the kids are watching other gamers play games, and that's not too bad, because sometimes that's actually fun, because it kind of gives you the experience of the game without you having to go out and buy the game. And I'm not going to buy those kind of games for my kids. My kids don't even have PCs. They're too young for that. I'm kind of a security dude. I don't want to expose my kids to that. Those security issues of catfishing and trolling and all that kind of stuff. But problem is, some of these really popular YouTube guys, they like to narrate, and it's like everything they say, and this is kind of like Dora the Explorer. Everything she said as if it was the most interesting thing in the world, and that's what really kind of made it so I couldn't really watch it. When somebody's talking like this all the time, and we're going to pick up this book, and it's just as important as what we're going to do at the end of the show, and you know, it's just hard to listen to. And these gamers do the same thing. They clip their videos together, and they're of course acting zany, because I think they're trying to attract viewers and kids and stuff like that. You can bet that adults aren't watching these shows, so maybe my 10-year-old kids are about the right demographic. And they just this stupid, silly, inane talk just to be talking is what's going on. So sometimes I don't mind watching the games, but I mean, whatever game they're playing, there's somewhere they're putting together, like they're in a junkyard and they're assembling machines and doing challenges. And there's just one where you create a raceway and then you race on it with your friends, that kind of thing. I mean, that's pretty fun to watch. But a lot of times it's the commentary that just kind of gets at you if you're not 7 years old. Well, this is, I think, my 4th pass, and this is almost a perfect amount of lather, a little bit of margin, just in case you make a mistake or something like that. How about that? How about that? 10 swirls. Who would have thought it? Oh, and the brush. Yeah, let's feel the brush a little bit more here, because that's, after all, today's goal. Yeah, I can feel it changing. And sometimes when you feel your brush, if you didn't have a chance with a bore to soak it for 10 minutes or longer, then pay attention to the feel at the end of the shave. In this case, it was different. A little bit more backbone, a little bit less softness at the beginning, because I didn't give it a super long soak. Maybe 5 minutes is what it got today. But when it has 10, 15, if you can do it before your shave, of a nice soak, it's a different brush. And the softness there, that wiriness, that ropiness is just not there. And so, yeah, it's changing here over the months, and I'm really happy about that, because I did want to get a bore brush. So many of mine are young. I did want to get a bore to an older state to try to. I like to talk about bore brushes a lot. I like to give advice online, that kind of thing. I've got a lot of bore brush experience. I have a wide bore brush experience, but I don't have a deep boar brush experience. I don't have a brush that I've put 300 uses on. And with boar brushes, though, that's really, we need more people like that out there. Because that's where many of their the prime of their lives really start, with a boar brush. When you get that many uses on them, the tips are just like, there are just so many of them that have split that you're dealing with mostly softness. When you're at 30 uses, 40, 50 uses, with many of the brushes, you're feeling softness because a lot of them have split. But not the majority, not just tons of them. And so I think the curve kind of starts kind of steep with, maybe it takes 5 to 15 uses for a boar brush to quit eating lather and to start getting reasonably comfortable. Okay, and so it's kind of harsh, and then all of a sudden 5, 15 uses in, you start to, oh, okay, well, this is kind of a normal brush now. I can use it, I can kind of enjoy it. I can see what people are talking about boars. You know, you start to feel that. And then you might get a little ways to where you start easing into that softness. And for brushes, it's just different. I'm not going to put a number on it. To where then you start, your eyes kind of widen a little bit, and you realize, hey, wait a minute, this is getting better, and it's heading in a really good direction. And that stage will last quite a long time. And then the final stage, at least the way I see it, as we put on the splash, is this where so many of your tips have split. The bloom is just easy and generous, that you start raving about it. you couldn't believe it would get this soft. You've almost developed a friendship with your brush because you've grown it up. You've kind of taught it and trained it and worked with it for so long. It's almost a relationship. And then online you brag about it, and you hope that other people get to that point too, instead of leaving before that happens. I've heard that some brushes can take, Omegas especially, can take hundreds and hundreds of uses before they get to that point. And I've even heard some Omegas don't even really get all that comfy until you've had hundreds of uses on them. And so that's why I pretty much abandoned a couple of my Omegas. All right, let's drop this a little bit on the towel. And so I want to get to that point, and I think this is the brush that I'm going to try to do it. Just keep putting uses on it. The other ones, I'm letting them grow all together. But this guy, he's the outlier. He is the one that's going to get the most uses the quickest. And we'll see where he lands. And this fourth pass that I was using him on was definitely softer than the first. And so that shows me I could have let the brush soak for longer and had a better experience at the start. So looking forward to that. That brush just continuing to improve. 16 milliliters of water used. I think that lather was about right. Yeah, toward the end it started to thin out a little bit where it was a little drippy. In the beginning I did have to add a little bit more water to the bowl, but I think that pretty much worked out about right for this soap base. And I've got the menthol on my face right now. I've been using the Sterling City Slicker for so long that The menthol is kind of surprising me a little bit. I'm not used to it because the sterling doesn't have it. Set the blade on a washcloth over there, and I'll gently pat it dry in a second. I'll put a Sharpie dot on my index card, and I'm going to put gear away right now. All right, so maybe I'm starting to move into a different phase with this brush. When I started the month, it was comfortable, didn't have a problem with the lather, able to generate it really well. It didn't kill it at all, and it was, but I did feel like it had a little more to go. And so maybe by the end of the month, maybe we will have transitioned to a new phase where I'm feeling more of the softness. It's more noticeable. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. We'll try to pay attention to that tomorrow. Give the brush a nice long soak beforehand. See if I can get that from the start. And lastly, we'll put on the EDP. Yep, EDP. There's EDC and EDP, and they differ. Eau de cologne, eau de water. I'm sorry, eau de parfum. I was thinking about the definition of eau, and so that's why my mind put in water right there. They differ in terms of, if you're curious, the percentage of the extract that is in the alcohol type medium here. One is higher percentage than the other, EDC versus EDP. I don't remember which one's higher, but that's the difference. All right, well, that's today's shave. Thanks so much for watching. I did pay attention to the brush a little bit more, and yeah, I can notice it is getting softer, noticeably softer than it started out this month. That's pretty cool. All right, guys, take care. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Hope this shave helps you out in some way. Take care now. Goodbye.